Amen. Good morning, Cornerstone. It is great to see you all, great to be here. I just want to thank you as a church. The reason we're able to have interns is because, like Lamar said, this is a church that sacrifices. And so I'm just very grateful to you all for your sacrifice, your contribution, your love, your support, so that we can have interns. I want to just give a big thank you to the leadership team for sharing that vision of how important it is for our young people to be inspired, right, to want to follow God. And also just a thank you to the board for, just the countless hours and the decision making and all of that, but ultimately supporting the decision that we could have interns. So I really just want to thank you as a church for that. Amen. Go ahead and turn your Bibles over to John chapter 14. We're going to begin there in a moment. We're going to be wrapping up our Reclaimed series today. So for most of the series, we've talked about things that we sort of need to reclaim, right? Last week, Kit shared about reclaiming your power, right? We talked about reclaiming your faith. Today, what I want to share about is not so much that, and again, I think it's twofold, but the idea and the fact that Jesus is going to be returning to reclaim us. And because of that, we ought to be able, that maybe if you've lost hope, you've lost faith, you've lost some love, you can reclaim those things. But Jesus is going to be coming back. I want to give, again, just also a big thank you to the band, the music ministry, the worship ministry, Heidi and the Melodies. I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to your first album, when that's going to be coming out. But yeah, just thank you so much for helping us to really get centered on God today. So school's about to start in about a week and a half. So yeah, the parents are all like, woo, yeah. The kid, I didn't hear any woos over here about that. But one of the things we have to do every year is they send us a form and say, how is your kid going to get to and from school? And so you have to decide, are they going to be riding the bus? Are they going to go to daycare? Are they going to be a car rider? Well, one of the things that I have we've almost always done with our kids is we just like having them as car riders. I really like taking my girls in the morning, praying with them. We always pray and sing a song on the way to church. I'm sorry, yeah, amen, on the way to church. But on the way to school, we pray and sing songs. And I love being, in a lot of ways, the first face they see after their day, so that we can sort of see how the day went, talk about it, rather than, again, I know bus rides are fun, and, I know kids, it's great. Don't feel ashamed if your kid rides a bus. But just for us, I really love to be able to sort of recap the day and really help them. Well, in order to pick your kid up in car rider, you got to get a car rider number, so that they make sure that you are the only person that is picking up your kid, and they know when the number is called that they need to come, that their parent, their loved one is out there to get them. And so it's really always just amazing for me, when I get to basically every day, almost, sometimes my mother-in-law, Grandma Betty's awesome, will also go and pick up the kids, or Natasha, but to see Noelle's face. And every day I get this opportunity to sort of reclaim her from school. So I drop her off in the morning, and she goes and deals with whatever happens in the day. She's learning, ABCs and poetry and all the stuff that they learn in school, in elementary school. And then at the end of the day, I come back for her. And it's amazing. It's this wonderful feeling. Tony shared a little bit about it when your kids want to be around you. Noelle's still at that age in elementary school where, for the most part, she wants to be around me. But to see her face when she gets in the car. And I think you've all seen those videos, right, of maybe a soldier returning from war, or a kid picking up a parent, or whatever. You've been in that situation, your kid's been on a trip or something like that, and when you see them for the first time, Victoria's shaking her head because she knows, she's got that big smile, and that's probably the smile she gets when she sees me, when she saw Abby after a day. And just when you pick them back up, and they smile and they're excited to see you, and you feel the same thing towards them. I want to read over in John chapter 14, because I think a lot of times when we think about Jesus coming back, I shared about this a little bit a few weeks ago. For the most part, we probably don't think about it that much. We can get very focused on this world and this life. right? Or sometimes even if we do think about it, we think about it in the context of, but I didn't get X done yet. Like if he came back today, yeah, I'd be happy to see him, but I was really hoping to, and you fill in the blank. Or maybe there's a sense of dread or even fear because you're worried. You feel like I might be on the fence. Is he really gonna want me when he comes back? And so today I want to talk about in John chapter 14, what it is gonna be like, or this idea of Jesus coming to reclaim us. In John chapter 14, and Tony and I didn't even corroborate. He just read, verse 6 about Jesus being the way, the truth, and the life. This is a portion right before that. In John chapter 14 and verse 1, it says, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me." Another translation, your Bible may say, "You trust in God, trust also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If not, I would have told you. I am going away to prepare a place for you. If I go away and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to myself so that where I am, you may be also. You know the way to where I am going." And so I love that Jesus says this. That, they're having they don't know it's the Last Supper. Jesus does. And they start talking about a lot of different things. And he had been saying, hey, I'm gonna go to the cross. And they didn't fully get it, right? I don't know how, but, I think the same thing is true of us. We don't fully get, right? Byron said, he's sharing, we need to believe sometimes that God's going to do it again, right? And so they didn't totally understand God's will. They didn't totally understand maybe God's plan. And so they were troubled. They saw that it was a very intense Passover meal. And so he tells them, don't let your hearts be troubled. Now, for those of you that have kids, or again, you're married, you have a close friend, you ever been around somebody that's really, really upset? And you ever told somebody that's really upset, calm down? Chloe's saying, yeah, pretty loud, because, does that ever work? I mean, in the history of people calming down, has anyone ever probably calmed down from being told, you need to calm down? No, I mean, it just, Chloe's loud. No, because a lot of times I'll be like, Chloe, you just need to calm down. And she just gets more mad when I say that, right? And so when someone says to you, don't be upset, calm down, don't let your hearts be troubled, just those words alone, does it generally normally do it? No. And so it's very interesting. Jesus tells them, look, don't let your hearts be troubled. But I love that Jesus doesn't just stop there essentially. Calm down. He tells them why. Don't let your hearts be troubled. But Lord, why? Why? How is that possible? He says, you trust in God. Trust also in me. You believe in God. Believe also in me. You see, the truth is we all know and can attest our hearts get very troubled. Right now, there are probably people in this room, your hearts may be troubled. You may be upset over finances. Maybe you had a pay cut during this pandemic. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe your company is furloughing people, and so you're worried about the finances. Maybe you're worried about your kids. Tony was talking about, you want your kids to be happy. I heard someone say, I think maybe it was Sam Lang, who said, you're as parents, you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. Right? So maybe there are those of us out there who our hearts are troubled. We're worried about our children, about their faith, about them growing up in a world where they're, where everyone is sucked in and addicted to technology, and there are dangers that we couldn't have even dreamt of when we were kids. Or maybe you had hoped that by now they would have decided to follow Jesus and they haven't. Or maybe they're not making decisions that you would have made. But if you were to sit down and tell them about some of the decisions you made, you'd realize it's really not probably as bad as you think it is. But your heart still get troubled. I was telling somebody this past week, it's only about I think I was telling Greg, about 2 things I lose sleep over. My kids and church. The only things that make me I stay up at night worried about it, But again, my heart gets troubled. Maybe your heart's troubled or you're worried about your marriage. Maybe you've been married so long and you would have thought by now we would be closer. We wouldn't still be having these same fights about your socks on the floor or about not helping out with the dishes or about spending too much without asking. Whatever it is. Or maybe you're just arguing because people get together and they argue. We sin against each other. Guess what? You're going to sin against your spouse probably more than anybody else on the planet. And so maybe your hearts are troubled about that right now. Maybe your heart's troubled about your health and wealth. Maybe your heart's troubled about your age. You're getting older and there are things you had hoped you would have accomplished by now. Maybe you're troubled about your weight. You've been trying to lose weight. You've tried diets. You're working out and you're still just not seeing the results. And so your heart may be troubled about that. Maybe you're single and you're saying, man, I'm approaching, you fill in the X number. And it's going to be too late for me. And you're troubled about being single. Or you're worried about it. Or maybe you've got to move. And there's a lot of things I hate. I hate traffic, but amen, live in Atlanta, it is what it is. And I hate moving. So maybe you just had to move. Maybe you just moved to the area and you're trying to get, acclimated to what it's like. And you left a really comfortable, safe space, but you maybe moved for a job or a situation and your heart is troubled about moving. Maybe you're troubled about your career. Somebody was going to get promotion of all the managers at this level and somebody else got promoted to VP. It wasn't you. Or you went on lots of interviews and you haven't gotten the job that you hope you would get. Maybe you're worried about school. Well, right now you're probably not, but maybe you're thinking it's about to start back up. My parents are about to get back on me about homework and I want to have a job as well this year and play sports and you're just worried about school or peer pressure. Whatever it is, there are lots of things in our lives that our hearts get troubled over. But Jesus says, I don't think this was something just for the apostles. I think Jesus knew one day we'd be reading this. And I think this is a verse that I want to sow in my heart. Fenton, don't let your heart be troubled. Why? Because you can trust me. We talk about this idea of Jesus is going to come reclaim us. What did he want them to trust him about? He then says it. He says, guess what? I'm going to prepare a place for you. My Father's house has many rooms. And guess what? I'm going to come back. I left you at school. I left you at the car line, but I am coming back at the end of the day. You may have had a spectacular day. You may have had a wonderful day. It may have been the worst day ever. But regardless of how you're feeling about life, regardless of how you're feeling about things that are going on, Jesus is returning for you. He's coming back to get you, and he's going to want to hear all about it. So many of us, again, we can get worried about Judgment Day. And I get it, right? It's going to be a separation of sheep and goats, those who have decided to follow Jesus and those who are not. But if you have, it needs to be a day that we are looking forward to, that we're anticipating. He's just going to want to hear about our day. He's going to want to hear about how our life went. He's going to want to just sit down, welcome you with big open arms and say, I know it's all right. You want to come see your room? You love Georgia Bulldogs? I got a bedspread. I don't know if that's going to be in heaven. Probably not the Georgia. I don't know. That might, but, man, you always wanted an amazing closet. Come see your closet. You got this amazing bed. You're going to be able to rest. Got all your favorite pictures on the wall. I've got a place that I went and prepared for you. But the question is, do we trust him that is true? Do we believe that he's coming back to get us? I know there are probably lots of people in this crowd. Maybe you didn't have a great relationship with your parents. Maybe you had a dad that was not there. Maybe you had a dad that made a lot of promises in your life. I'm going to do X, Y, or Z, and they didn't. Maybe you're one of those kids, the principal or officer was always having a call because your dad was never there in car line to pick you up on time. Maybe you had a parent that belittled you that made you feel like you were worthless, that made you feel like you were never good enough. So you were never excited. As a matter of fact, you enjoyed being at school because your teachers gave you the kind of love that you didn't get at home. I remember when I was a kid, sometimes people would say the kids that showed out at school is because they didn't get attention at home. And when I was a kid, I always thought that was stupid. I was like, that's not true. They're just showing out because they're bad. But man, as I got older and understood, and I'm so grateful for the mom and dad I have and the love and support we have. But man, when you talk to people, like people will literally tell you, I showed out at school because I knew it would get me attention. Because at home I was ignored, I was left alone, I wasn't cared for. And maybe that's how, because your relationship with your parents were like that, you think God's that way. And when you think about Jesus coming to reclaim those who are his, you start to wonder, am I really one of his? Would he really come for me? I mean, look at the sin I've got him out. Look at the things I've done. Or look at the things that were done to me. I'm damaged. I'm broken. I've been hurt and harmed by this world. I've hurt and harmed other people. Why would he make a room for me? But he promises that is exactly what he did and what he's doing. So this week, it was, to be frank, it was really a terrible week for me. About Wednesday morning, I got a call. My sister called me about 7 o'clock in the morning. And, she doesn't normally call me that early. So I was like, okay, something's up. And, she stayed, during the pandemic, she decided to move in with my parents to help them out, make sure they had groceries, that whole deal. And so she called me early in the morning, so I'm just like, okay, did something happen to mom, dad, whatever? She calls me and she's just in tears. She's just weeping. She can't even talk. And she goes on to tell me her dog, who was like her kid, it's like Fuego got hit by a car and he was killed. And I mean, she's just, you can imagine, devastated. Right? That was her pandemic companion, right? Her first ever sort of my pet, right? More than a pet for her. It was like her kid. And so I'm like, I'm on my way. And so, we go and, again, long story short, it was just devastating. I sat, actually we went to the vet hospital or whatever, because they thought, actually, before I got there, they realized he still had a little bit of life in him, so it just got worse. So rushed him to the hospital, but he still didn't make it. So we're there, and, she's holding him and just apologizing. I just should have taken care of you better. He got out, and got hit, and she just feels this guilt, this anger about him being, he wasn't supposed to be let out, but he got let out. And I just sit there, and I'm holding my sister's hand, and she's holding, and we're just weeping. Our hearts were very much troubled. And I started to really ask, man, like, of all the people, why my sister? Like, why us? Like there are people that could have probably dealt with this better. Like this was her person. So why? And I called Greg and Byron, I'm talking to these guys through this, and we're just, just trying to work through it. And Greg, who, something way worse than losing a pet. They lost their son. And he says, the thing I just clung to, and the thing that I cling through, and the thing I want to tell you, Fenton, is you have to remember, God is good. Like he is good. Right? He's not an absentee father. He's not just sitting on a rocking chair, doesn't care what's going on this planet. He's good and he's aware. And the thing that keeps you up, though, is, well, why didn't he stop it? He could have made sure that X didn't happen. The gate was closed, or the dog wouldn't have wandered into the street, or, all these things that God had the power to do to stop it. So how could this still happen? And when you have those sort of situations happen in your life, you think, why would Jesus come to reclaim me? Look at what happened in my life. Look at what happened in my marriage, or with my kids, or in my faith, or in my job. Like why would he come back from? Does he really even care about me? Those are the things that start going through our head when bad things happen. And the truth is, Jesus was about to go through a bad thing that was about to happen. And he's telling these guys, don't let your hearts be troubled. You know, God is good. God sees everything. He's omnipresent, meaning he's everywhere. He's omniscient, meaning he knows everything. But he is also omnibenevolent, meaning he is all good. And if I can, like Jesus said, believe in me, trust in me. You believe you trust in God, trust also in me. Trust that I am good, that I am coming back to get you. No matter what happened to you in this life, no matter what's going on, I am coming for you. And it was very interesting as we were talking on the phone. I'm driving down the highway and I'm talking to Greg about this, and something dawned on me that I don't know, I feel like it maybe had never dawned on me before in my Christian life, or maybe it had, but it didn't really impact me like it did this day. You know, as I was sitting with my sister and with my mom, and they were both, you know, just, again, devastated about the dog. Even my dad, who doesn't get really emotional, I mean, he's clearly upset. And I was just thinking, like, I really just want to suck the pain out of them, even if that meant I could put it on me. Like, I want to take their pain away. Like I can deal with this. Put it on me. Like, I hate, like just holding my sister's hand and she's sobbing uncontrollably. And I just want my dog back. Like give that to me. And I would have gladly just taken it so that they didn't feel it. And it dawned on me as I'm talking to Greg driving down the highway that is exactly what Jesus did. Jesus said, they cannot deal with the weight of sin. This life is too much. Some really bad things are going to happen. You're going to make some horrendous mistakes, some irrevocable in some ways mistakes sometimes. Or somebody's going to do something to you. Kit shared about it. Sharing being in prison with a guy that, you know, he was basically insinuating had harmed children. And Kit shared that he had been harmed as a child, right? Sometimes really bad things are going to happen to you and it's not your fault. Or maybe bad stuff happened and it was your fault. Either way, that doesn't matter. What happens is the pain is going to be real. And the only way to get through it, the only way to overcome the things that are going to happen in this life, Jesus says, trust in me. You trust in God, trust in me. He later would say, in this world you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. You are going to have trouble, Cornerstone, in this life. Those things that trouble your hearts, there's a reason they trouble our hearts. But God is greater, God is bigger, and guess what? Jesus is coming back for you. And one of the ways we can know that promise is true is because he went to the cross to take away that pain. He wouldn't go through all that to take away your pain. The reason he did it was to make it possible for you to be with him. I said a couple weeks ago, only perfect people are getting in heaven. Heaven is a perfect place. The streets are gold. There's pearls. There's the tree of life, and the leaves are always giving healing for the nations. And there's the river of life, and it's amazing. We're going to get to be in God's presence. Nothing evil, bad, sinister can get in there. So if you're not perfect, guess what? You can't get in. But praise be to God that he sent a son to die on the cross to make a way that we can be covered in his blood. You see, when he's coming back, the same way I have to have a number, and Noelle knows her number when she's called, we've got to have the blood of Jesus over us. And all those that are covered by the blood of Jesus, he's going to take you to be with him for forever. And so the hard part about it is we've got to wait. Waiting is hard. It's so interesting. I was thinking, you know, does their generation, is it easier for them to wait or is it easier for us? Because, you know, when we were kids, so the other day I went to help my mom get a new debit card. I was helping her out with some stuff, get a new debit card, new credit card. We went to the credit union or whatever where she banks at, and we were like, okay, you know, this possible situation of fraud happened. We need to get a new card or whatever. And I was like, oh, how many weeks is it going to take? And the guy goes, I kid you not, we can print it today. Like with her name, like it won't be a temporary card and the one will come later in the mail. No. It'll have her name on it and it'll be activated today. I'm like, do you know how long we had to wait in DMV lines? Do you know how long it was for us? You know, think about this. When you wanted to hear a favorite song on the radio, you had to wait till the top 8 at 8, V103. right? You had to get your tape recorder, wait, and then record it. Man, if the teens want to, if I said, hey, do you want to hear whatever your favorite song is, they could pull out their phones, pull it up on Spotify or on YouTube right now. You want to know the name of all the oceans in the world? Well, back then you just had to memorize it. You had to go get out your atlas. Guess what? Siri, what are the names of the oceans in the world? Man, even once you got to my childhood and I wanted to play video games, right? If I was trying to go through a game, I had to wait till I got back home to sit down because it had to be plugged up to my television. The Nintendo Switch, you take it off the thing and just keep playing. I mean, there is no, so it's interesting. We don't necessarily live in a world where we're used to waiting now. And so waiting can get hard. It's when we say wait on the Lord, man, I almost hate when somebody says, bro, just wait on the Lord. Because you're just like, but how long is it going to be? I've been praying about this, or and that's exactly what we do. We pray to God, okay, and then it's like 5 minutes later, all right, Lord, where's the answer? I mean, we don't like to wait. But the thing about waiting, the one thing that can always sort of make waiting seem shorter is when you have something to do. So again, if I had to go to the DMV, it's like, all right, I need to take a book because I'm going to be in this line, whatever. Or, if it's like, if I'm waiting on my other songs to come, waiting for the top 8 at 8, I can go play video games until it comes on, or whatever. So when you're doing something, it can make the waiting a lot easier. Look at what Jesus says in Luke chapter 12. Until he comes back, he gives us what we're supposed to be doing while we wait on him. In Luke chapter 12 and verse 35, it says this. It says, be ready for service and have your lamps lit. You're going to be like people waiting for their master to return from the wedding banquet. So when he comes and knocks, they can open the door for him at once. Pardon me. Blessed will be those servants their master finds alert when he comes. Truly, I tell you, he will get ready, have them recline at the table, then come and serve them. If he comes in the middle of the night or even near dawn and finds them alert, blessed are those servants. But know this, if the homeowner had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also be ready, because the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Lord, Peter asked, are you telling this parable to us or to everyone? The Lord said, who then is the faithful and sensible manager his master will put in charge of his household servants to give them their allotted food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom the master finds doing his job when he comes. You see, we're not supposed to just sit on our laurels and just wait doing nothing. Right? In the parable of the talents, the only guy that the master was upset with was the guy who did nothing. He buried his talent. Right? God has given you gifts. God has given you abilities. God has given you a life. And it may have been a difficult life, but God may have even allowed that to happen so that you could help someone else. You see, Greg was consoling me on the phone because he had been through something way worse than my sister's dog passing away. So maybe your mess can become your message. Maybe your trauma can become a truth about Jesus to someone else. We are supposed to be busy doing our job while we wait. And what is that job? Matthew 28. Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded, right? Jesus said the greatest command is love God and love people. Help other people to follow Jesus. That is the job that he has left us with. We need to be able to tell people, guess what? The king is returning. The king is coming back, and he's coming back to claim us. I want to have the type of courage to tell people about that. I want to have the same type of courage that highway graffiti artists have. Every single time I drive down the highway and I see one of those signs on the back of like the highway signs, I'm like, how did they get up there? And secondly, how did they not get caught? Right? But thirdly, was it really that important for you to say, I don't know, whatever your name is, the Flash on the back of that sign? And essentially I started to think, well, maybe they just get them when they're still like in the train yard before the signs come out. But I realized if there was graffiti on it, then the people would be able to remove it before it went out. So that means they are literally going up at probably 2 or 3 in the morning. And the thing is, I've never seen one. I'm glad. I hope I don't ever see one, because I just feel like I would maybe get in an accident. Like, what is that dude doing up there? Oh, he's graffiti. But I want to have that type of courage to tell somebody, man, the king is returning and he's coming back to claim those who are his. Do you know him? You can trust in him. He's gone to prepare a place. You think this life is hard? Guess what? It is. But he's got a paradise that is waiting for you. I want to have the type of courage where I can share Jesus. I mean, we need to spread hope. We need to spread hope. We need to spread courage. We need to spread faith and love to a world that is full of darkness. We need to be light. To a world that is rotting, we need to be salt. Hope is such a powerful thing. So, there's an experiment, a professor, a guy by the name of Dr. Kurt. It was set in the 50s, so some of this is going to be a little jarring to your ears because, back then, people just kind of did whatever they wanted in these experiments. But he took these rats, and he took 12 domesticated rats. And what he did is he put them in a bucket to see essentially how long they could survive, a bucket of water, how long they could survive in that bucket of water. And so he started with 12 domesticated rats, and he said, initially these guys swam around for the surface, and then maybe they would go down in the bottom and explore, and eventually they would drown, but it would be after, several minutes for some of them. But even of the initial 12 domesticated rats, 9 of them swam around the surface, dove down a little bit, and then they survived for days in that bucket of water. So, of course, you got to have your control experiment. For those of you, when you're going to go science class this year, you got to have your control. So he got 34 wild rats. So the first he took were domesticated, raised in a lab, or maybe somebody's pet, I don't know. But the 34 wild ones, he thought, well, these guys have to survive all the time in the wild. So I bet they're going to survive longer than the domesticated ones. But he put them in there, and he expected them to fight hard for their survival. Surprisingly, this was not the case at all. Despite their ferocity, fitness, and swimming ability, not one of the 34 wild rats survived more than a few minutes. He reflected on what caused some of the rats to give up, and what he decided was probably the overwhelming factor in their willingness to keep struggling was whether or not the animal had hope. He said, where rats have perhaps been helped in the past and have hope of being saved, they will keep fighting in the belief that all is not lost. However, when they don't have this prior experience, they will give up quickly. In his own words, he said, the situation of these rats scarcely seems one demanding fight or flight. It is rather one of hopelessness. The rats are in a situation against which they have no defense, the wild ones. They literally seem to just give up. So he decided to test this hypothesis a little bit farther. So he does the last set of experiments. And what he does is he takes a new cohort of rats that were all similar to each other. He introduced them into the bucket and observed as they progressed towards drowning. But what he would do is right as they were about to give up, he would pick them up, take them out, dry them off, and then he'd put them back. I know, right? It is a little crazy. Again, it's the 50s. It's the 50s, right? You can kind of do whatever you wanted. So he placed them in the bucket back and started the experiment all over again. And you know what he determined? He said when the rats were placed back in the water, they swam and swam for much longer than they had the first time they were placed in the buckets. The only thing that had changed for them was the hope after they had been saved before. He said the rats quickly learned that the situation is not actually hopeless, and that after elimination of hopelessness, the rats do not die. Now, I know people and rats are different. But they went on to do some other experiments with people, and they mostly applied it to work. But think about what this means spiritually. Think about what this means when you truly believe he has a room for me. Think about what this does for somebody whose marriage has fallen apart or is falling apart. When you give them the gospel, the good news, that guess what? God can save any situation. When they see their kids are struggling, when they see their kids are going through something, when you can say, guess what? The Bible says, train them the way they're supposed to go. And when they're older, They won't depart from it. Doesn't mean they're going to be perfect while they're in high school, middle school, elementary school. Doesn't even mean they're going to be perfect at any point in their lives. Doesn't mean they're going to do well according to your standards after they leave your house. But if you have trained them, there is hope that one day. And so literally, Vicki was telling me about some woman who had a terrible financial situation. And she said, I'm not a financial guru, but I'm really organized. And I was just helping her get organized with her finances. And this woman who thought she was basically on the verge of bankrupt, 6 months later or something like that, had good finances. People just need hope. We can beat people over the head with the Bible all day. Are you a hope dealer? Not a dope dealer. Are you a hope dealer? When you remember that God did amazing things for me, he's going to be able to do it again. But when you have the attitude of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, even if he doesn't, I'm not bowing down to selfishness, to insecurity, to pride, to stress eating, to pornography, to impurity, to masturbation. I'm not. Even if the situation doesn't work out exactly like I want, I know that he went to prepare a room for me. It's so much easier to overcome sin when you're thinking less about overcoming sin and saying, man, the king is returning. I want to please him. I want to live for him. Yes, do we need to deny ourselves? Amen. But what are we striving for? I just want to make it to that room. And he made it possible by his death, burial, and resurrection on the cross. And so, my encouragement today, Jesus later tells a parable. When the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth? Right? I think one of the ways that can help us to have faith is when we have hope. When we believe and know that he went to prepare a room for me, he's coming back to reclaim me. So today I hope that you will reclaim your hope. Today I hope that you will reclaim your faith. I hope you'll reclaim your love, whatever it is that you feel like this world has caused you to lose. Right? Because you go and serve in children's ministry, a little nod, a little wink. I love Byron's public service announcement in the Devo on Friday. That was so funny. But when you get around children, man, they're just full of hope. They're full of love. They're full of faith. They just believe you. They trust you, right? God wants to see us be that same way. And I know the world beats us up, and it causes us to lose faith, hope, and trust. But Jesus said, trust me, because guess what? I'm going to die for you. And not only that, I raised from the dead. I'm going to go and prepare a place for you. So I'm really, really excited. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus, right, we'd love to sit down and study it out with you. Today, Ephraim, where's Ephraim at? He just went to get ready. Yeah, so Ephraim's going to be baptized into Christ today. Yeah. So, Jim and Cindy, they've been studying with him and his wife, and he decided he wants to make Jesus Lord of his life. And he's about to get that blood we talked about, that blood that covers us, right? His name's going to be written in the book of life. Right? So if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, if you're worried about the king's return because you're not a part of his army, you're not a part of his people, you're not a part of his kingdom, right? Man, you need to believe in Jesus. Put your faith, your trust, declare your allegiance to him. Change your life, right? There are things we all got to change and work on. And get baptized, right? Die to your old life and be raised to new life. You receive the forgiveness of sins, the gift of the Holy Spirit. You got that ticket. He's going to come back looking for those who've got the seal of the Holy Spirit, right? That's how you do it. So we're going to have one final song. But before we do, I'd like to do something that she is not expecting. I'd like to call Carly Shortland on up to the stage. So come on up here, Carlisle. So sadly, next weekend is Carly's last week in the full-time ministry. She's going to be going to work in social work. That's what her background's in. She's done a great job as a student ministry leader for us, as well as our community outreach coordinator. She was just doing announcements about Summer Serve, and I know she's put in a ton of hard work. But Carly served with us for the past 3 years, and I know, right? And she has just been amazing, right? She has been phenomenal. Carly, your work with the teens and middle schoolers, You're really leading the way as we try to serve the community and be good news in our community. It's just so exemplary, right? I love just one of the things a lot of people know is how much she prays for your children, how much she has dreams and goals for them, how much she is a hope dealer, to the children, but just a great disciple, a great follower of Jesus. And I am really, really proud to say not only my sister, but my friend. And so I love you so much, Carly. I'm really, 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 I'm truly going to miss having you on staff here. But, I know she's probably touched many lives through singing, through worship, through the conversations, she studied the Bible with several of your children that decided to make Jesus Lord. And, we just love you so much and just appreciate just the service that you have. Again, like I said the other week, you're following Jesus so much in his example that he did 3 years of ministry. You said, after 3 years, I'm going to come out of the ministry too. That's how much of a follower of Jesus she is. But just wanted to just give you a big token of our appreciation. And Ethan probably asked you out to lunch. I told him to do that. That was a lie. So I get to publicly confess his sins. Afterwards, we're going to have the baptism, and then we're going to have a time of sharing and encouragement and some cake and stuff because we love you so much. So Carly Shortland, everybody. So I love you so much. You're amazing. You're awesome. And we just want to show you how grateful we are. All right? Amen. Amen. So we're going to have the singers come on up for one final song. After the song, we're going to have a baptism, and we're going to get everything ready for our celebration and honoring of Carly. That's your sermon. Amen.